This patch is called Talking Droid and it sounds like this. This is how it works. The woggle smooth output sets a new random pitch for the carrier wave each time a note is played. Because we're using the woggle smooth output, the pitch slides from one position to the next as a note is triggered. The fold and mod controls can be adjusted to alter the texture. The attack and release controls define a fairly short length for each sound, which can be sustained by holding a key. This patch is called Correct Answer. It's a bit like a sound effect you might get on a game show when someone presses their buzzer. It works by using function 2 to create a type of LFO, a low frequency oscillator, where function 2 triggers itself using the end trigger output connected to the trigger input. So as it completes one cycle of a wave, a trigger is sent which makes the process happen again. So you get a continuous wave from function 2 instead of just having a one-shot wave. Then the output of function 2 is connected, the positive output is connected to the pitch input of the source module. So as function 2 rises and falls, the pitch of the note that you play, or the pitch of the oscillator, rises and falls too. And the speed at which it does this and the shape at which it rises and falls is controlled by the shape and the time knobs of function 2.
Match of the week with Horgan.
Video game jump. This patch applies the function 1 inverted output to the source pitch input, so that when a note fades out, the pitch rises. But in this example, the function 1 signal goes via the woggle module, which creates a stepped pitch change, rather than a smooth pitch slide. Before it reaches the woggle, the function 1 inverted output is sent to the utility module, where its range is limited with the C knob. The woggle module will only generate a new value when it's triggered, so a fast, continuous stream of signals has been created using function 2. The sharp peak in the function 2 shape here can emulate a trigger signal. This is connected to the woggle trigger input, so a new woggle value based on the function 1 inverted output value is triggered each time the function 2 wave starts a new cycle. As the function 1 signal falls during the release phase, a rising signal is sent to the woggle sample input. Turn the function 1 release knob to change the height of your video game character's jump.
Match of the week with Horgan.
If I was a pitchman. This patch is reminiscent of some classic ZX Spectrum computer game sounds, such as those in Manic Miner and Jet Set Willy. The patch changes the pitch of the carrier wave very rapidly, using a fast repeating wave generated by function 2, sent from the function 2 positive output to utility signal input A. The function 1 positive output is connected to the signal input C, which gives a slight variation in the amount of pitch change during the release phase of each note. The C knob is used to create the desired range of pitch variation overall. The ABC times C output is sent to the source pitch input. There's also a lot of fun that we can have using the function 2, time and shape with this sound. Rocket explode. This uses a very basic feedback loop from the space out signal output to the source pitch input. This sound creates a very chaotic change in the pitch of the carrier wave. The carrier wave is really changing its own pitch very rapidly because its own wave is being fed back and turned into a pitch, which is then translated back into the wave, and so it goes on.
Match of the week with Horgan.
Self-generating sound. This is an example of how you can make sounds play by themselves using a constant volume signal. We're going to use a volume signal from the utility A plus B times C output. This will output a constant high level signal when nothing is connected to the A, B and C inputs and when the C knob is at the maximum position. This will allow us to hear the carrier wave, which is always active, but we can't hear it until we give it a volume level, which normally would happen when we press the key, but we can do this without pressing a key. So we'll hear that basic carrier wave, and then we can make a few additions to the sound to make it a bit more interesting as we go. We could achieve the same effect by connecting the LPG1 level input to the function 1 inverse output when no notes are being played.
Match of the week with Horgan.
This patch is called Brain, because I think it sounds like a brain. The trick with this one is to connect all the cables with the power off and then turn the power on, because when you first turn the power on, the oscillators are operating at a different frequency to how they would be once you've played a note. So this is how it sounds. We'll power it on now. A constant volume level is created by connecting the utility A plus B times C output to the LPG1 level input, where the C knob controls that volume level. This allows the carrier wave to be heard without playing a note. The woggle module is triggered each time function 2 completes a wave cycle. This sets a different waveform shape for each cycle of function 2, which creates a subtle organic change in the pulsing of the sound as it plays. The function 2 end trigger output is required to loop function 2 to generate a continuous wave, and also to re-trigger the woggle module. So the function 2 end trigger output is connected to the split input 1 and then sent to those two connections via the split output 1A and 1B. There are two main changes to the tone in the sound: the fold amount, which is varied by the function 2 positive output, and the space out amount, which is varied by the function 2 inverted output. As the fold amount rises, the space out reverb amount falls, and vice versa. Easy sub-bass. This sound uses the modulator wave to create a low frequency sub-bass. Usually the modulator wave is not heard. Instead, it's used as part of the frequency modulation process, which shapes the carrier wave that is the wave that we usually hear. However, in this patch, we've connected the source modulator wave output to the LPG1 signal input. This overrides the default connection from the carrier wave to the LPG1 signal input. So now we hear the modulator wave instead of the carrier wave. The modulator wave tracks the pitch of the keyboard, so it's playing the same notes as would be played by the carrier wave, but generally at a lower frequency, at least when the ratio setting is at the minimum position. If we increase the ratio setting from the minimum position, then we will hear that the frequency of the modulator wave rises. We want this to be a very deep bass sound, so we're going to keep the modulator ratio setting at the minimum position. I'll show you one more trick that we can use with this patch. It can sound a bit quiet because on a smaller system it can sound quiet. On a big system it can sound very loud, but because it's a very low frequency basic triangle wave, there aren't many harmonics to be heard through smaller sound systems. If we want to make this sound louder, we can duplicate the output from LPG1 into LPG2 and then pass that on to the main output. So if we connect the LPG1 signal output to the LPG2 signal input, and then if we also duplicate the default connection from function 1 that is going to the LPG1 level input, if we duplicate that to the LPG2 level input, that will get the volume envelope to make that audible. So we will duplicate the wave in LPG2, join them together, and the result will be a louder sound. Hello and welcome to Patch of the Week with me, Tony Horgan. Today's patch is called A1 Kick, which I've created with the Korg Volca drum. You can make a much longer version of this sound just by increasing the release time, and that can be very effective if you're working at a lower tempo, maybe for R&B, hip hop kind of styles, or at a higher tempo when you're into the kind of drum and bass kind of territory. You can even mix and match a longer version and a shorter version in the same kit, which can be effective. If you hold function and press copy, you can then select the original shorter version and then select a part that you want to copy that into, and then increase the release time and then save the kit, and then you'll have a short one and a long one. And finally, if you're going to do that, it's a good idea to use the choke control with those two sounds. So if you select function and choke, then select those two parts, it will mean the short bass drum and the long bass drum will cut one another out, so you don't get them overlapping, so you get a much cleaner sound. So that can sound like this. Volume fluctuation. This patch uses the utility module to combine two modulation sources into one. Function 1 creates a general volume envelope for each note, while function 2 creates a secondary, more rapid volume fluctuation, which is kept within the bounds of the function 1 volume envelope by the utility module. When a note is played with this patch, the volume will fluctuate according to the rise and fall wave that is being generated by function 2. However, this volume fluctuation is within the range set by the function 1 attack hold release signal. If the function 2 positive output was connected directly to the LPG1 level input, the sound would be constantly audible, with the volume fluctuating from maximum to minimum. However, because it's passed through the utility ABC module, the function 2 wave moves within the range of the function 1 signal, which is the main volume envelope. This is because the formula A plus B times C is applied, in which A is not connected and therefore is 0, B is the function 2 wave, and C is the function 1 signal. So here the formula can be simplified as B times C. The maximum value of C at any time is 1. When the function 1 signal is in the hold phase, as the note is held, the value of C is 1, so B times C is equal to B. When the value of C falls during the function 1 release phase, the value of C might be 0.5, so the formula B times C equals half of B. So when the release phase has been completed, the value of C is 0, and so the formula B times C equals 0. I hope you're keeping up. This is translated into an overall volume because the A plus B times C output is connected to the LPG1 level input. This has the effect of scaling the volume fluctuation according to the attack, hold, release signal.